Coming up on the Geno Auriemma Show, presented by UConn Health.
This isn't junior high, where just because you're on the team and you're at school, you get to play. This is college basketball. You have an obligation to compete. If I only play 6 players every minute for the rest of the year, we won't lose a game.
But that's not realistic.
Why not?
Plus,
She went, catch, look, 100 miles an hour.
how the Hall of Fame coach uses history as a teaching tool. And
If I come to one of your games, it better take the average person 30 seconds to know which kid's going to Connecticut.
that's and so much more
I've been talking to some of these guys since June. That's 8 months. Wars have been decided in less than 8 months.
on the Geno Auriemma Show.
Welcome in to the Geno Auriemma Show. And Geno, as we sit here, we have just come off that game against Tulsa. In the first quarter, your starters went out, but in the second quarter, you almost did like a hockey sub, and that you sent your entire second team out. When was that decision made?
At the Texas game, actually. I said, you know, it's funny, I told the coaches, I said, you know, I really hope we win tonight, because I want to play the freshmen a lot Thursday night, and I don't want it to come off of a loss and then act like, you know, oh, he's punishing the starters. So I wanted to do it, you know, and I wanted to play them the whole second quarter, and so that was my decision on Monday. And we didn't practice Tuesday, and we practiced Wednesday. Most of the young guys were out there by themselves. And they couldn't get through 45 minutes of practice without the older guys. So I kind of changed my mind. I said, that's it, I'm not playing them. And then when we got to the game, I said, you know, that's stupid. Let's just play them anyway and see what happens. But that's what happens when you reward people for doing nothing. You get nothing. And when people do a lot, compete a lot, and they get rewarded, they compete a lot. So yesterday we got what we normally get in practice. I mean, I hate to say it, and people say, oh, you're being mean and all that. This isn't junior high, where just because you're on the team and you're at school, you get to play. This is college basketball. And when you're getting a $50,000 scholarship, you have certain obligations. And you have an obligation to those people that came to the game last night. To what? Make every shot? No. Complete every pass? No. No, you have an obligation to compete. To really, really compete. It's getting embarrassing, some of the letters that I get about our bench, or how hard it is to play at UConn, how hard it is to play for Coach Auriemma. This is the easiest place in America to play. You're asked to do one thing, show up every day and compete really hard. These guys don't, so they don't play. Plain and simple. All right, so if you're watching the show, save yourself the effort of writing an email, because you have no idea what you're talking about. You're used to coming to UConn games because you're used to a tradition of excellence. You're used to us putting together an amazing product on the floor. You don't go to a Broadway show expecting excellence and they just put bad actors out there and go, you know what, we're just trying to give them a chance. Doesn't work that way. You practice, you practice, you practice. And when you know you can get it right, you perform on a stage. I've never been more angry in my life at the way some people react to us trying to put a great product on the floor. It's amazing that no matter how good a product you give them, it's not good enough.
What bothers you the most about what you saw from the starters and from your reserves?
It doesn't bother me anymore. I see us every day in practice. I'm beyond bothered. I see it every single day. Some days we just hide it better than others. And if I could have it my way, we would give every person that came tonight their money back. I've been talking to some of these guys since June. That's 8 months. Wars have been decided in less than 8 months.
Is it everybody, or is it
No.
some of the players?
Not everybody. Not everybody. It's just one of those weird years where it's always something. And yet we managed to win. But it's always something. Some years, you know what you have? Some years you have this, everything goes great. Everybody's in sync. Everybody's committed to what we're doing. And then other years you have a lot of distracted players. And the reason why it looks so funny out there relative to what it normally looks like is we have a lot of players that are distracted. Maybe that's the new world. Maybe we're just becoming like everybody else.
So in a couple days, you went from proud of your team
Yeah.
after the Texas game
Uh-huh.
to calling their play disgraceful
Yeah.
against Tulsa.
Yeah. Well, how many players played in that Texas game?
6, maybe 7?
6,
Okay.
I think, exactly. If I'm not mistaken.
You would know.
If I'm not mistaken. And I watched a replay of the Notre Dame-Tennessee game last night, and I think in that game, I think the subs scored a total of 1 point, I think. So maybe that's just the world. Yeah, I was proud of how we fought back. And I told our team, I wasn't proud of how we played for large stretches of that game. But I was proud of the way we fought back. Because it could have been, it could have got away from us. It could have. But we fought back and we managed to make all the right plays we needed to make when we needed to make them. But only 6 players played. So what I'm saying is if I only play 6 players every minute for the rest of the year, yeah, we won't lose a game.
But that's not realistic.
Why not?
Is that the point that
No,
you're
I'm
at?
saying, why isn't it realistic? It's not preferable. I don't prefer it. I wish it wasn't like that. But it all comes down to we as coaches have got to figure out how do we get more production from other people. We as coaches have to figure that out. A transfer situation is almost never, can't ever say never, almost never sudden. It may be a surprise given where they were when they got here to how it got to here. Like, I'm surprised that didn't work out, but it's never sudden. There's so many signs leading up to it. That's the way it's going to end. And it's best for them, and it's best for you. It's just not going to work. Nothing's going to change, not for the foreseeable future. Knock on wood, to this day, we've never had, a kid that comes in here is starting at, first team All-American or a great player and walks in one day and says, hey, I'm out of here. So, but we're like every other school, I think, that we take a chance on people. Most of the time we're correct, but increasingly in this day and age, it's a lot easier to miss and to end up in a situation where a kid either, one, doesn't belong here, and we made a mistake and they made a mistake. They just don't belong here. They don't fit. They don't fit, and they'll never fit. Everything was, I'm afraid. Everything, I'm afraid, I'm afraid, I'm afraid, I'm afraid. You can't function here at this level like that. And then there's other kids that they really do fit. They wanted to, we wanted them to, they tried their best, and they realized, Coach, I can't see myself ever getting the kind of playing time that I really, really want. So I think it's best for me to, and those are the players that I feel better about. I feel better like, okay, we did the best we can, and we gave you an opportunity. You gave us everything you have, and it just wasn't, wasn't going to work. I think that's all fair. I don't like when we make mistakes, and it turns out that we misjudged, and I feel bad because it's on us. Like, we should know better, but we're not perfect.
This is our first time sitting down with you since the program announced that Andre Espinoza-Hunter has decided to transfer. Mm-hmm. How tough is a decision like that?
It depends whether that decision is going to like really hurt your program, because then you feel like, man, we had an opportunity here to really, really do something that we thought this was really important, this was really crucial. Someone who's a hard worker, somebody who really makes a full commitment, somebody who, but for whatever reason, they just, they can't stay. Then it's difficult. That's a difficult decision. But a lot of times, these decisions are not very difficult. They're not very difficult at all. There's a reason why players transfer. There's a reason. Wherever she ends up, we wish her the best.
She was part of a 4-member freshman class for you guys. That's a bigger recruiting class than UConn typically tends to go for.
Right.
Why do you think it was bigger this year?
I don't know. That's a good question. We've had that in the past. And we felt like, here's 4 players that we think can have an impact at Connecticut. With a lot of kids, you're keeping your fingers crossed and saying, I hope this works. And not like, I hope they're a good kid. I hope they're, we don't, generally speaking, we don't recruit kids that aren't great kids. We don't. So I never worry about that part. You just go, I hope they understand that they're going to have to work hard if they want to play. No matter how much you think you know or how much experience you've had, different things pop up all the time to remind you that it's not going to be easy. It's not supposed to be easy. For the young guys, you have no idea how hard you have to go every drill in order to be ready to play basketball at this level.
Do you ever limit the number of kids you're looking at for a specific recruiting class?
Yeah, not on purpose, but I think only bringing in 1 is probably not great. 2 is probably pretty good. 3, yeah. 4, we've had it work. And the 4 best I can remember, Sue, Asia, Tamika, and Swin. Now, the one thing they all had in common was extraordinary talent.
You hear so often, especially in college football recruiting, that the recruiting system itself is flawed.
Yeah.
Do you feel that way about women's college basketball?
Flawed in a sense that all these kids go to all these showcases and they're exalted by their people that are pushing them and promoting them, and parents. So they are being elevated to a level that they haven't earned yet. This is one thing I tell our players all the time when I watch them play in high school. I say, listen, if I come to one of your games, it better take the average person 30 seconds to know which kid's going to Connecticut. Okay? If it takes me longer than that to watch out there, and I can't tell which kid's going to Connecticut, and if I were to ask somebody, do you know which kid's going to Connecticut out there? And they go, I don't know. And at the end of the first quarter, they still don't know. And at the end of the second quarter, they still don't know. That's a bad sign. Because if you're coming to play for us, then you need to dominate the high school games. Final Four at the Alamo Dome. And we're playing, and Dee's about ready to throw the game. I think she's got a bet on the game or something. We're up like 15. She turns it over like 4 times in a row, and they score. Now it's like a 6-point game or something like that. And I remember calling timeout and saying to the seniors, she was a sophomore, I said, you know what? She don't care whether we win or lose. She's coming back next year. You guys are all graduating. She don't care. And like she, typical Dee at the time, she was like, making faces and groaning. Now we come back in the huddle 2 possessions later, and we need a bucket bad. So I'm thinking to myself, we got 4 seniors and we got all these All-Americans, and I'm thinking we need somebody that, one, when they get the ball in their hands, is either going to score, get fouled, or score and get fouled, or just get fouled and they have to be able to make free throws. So we ran a play, gave the ball to Dee. She came down, boom, shot fake, foul, score, 2, make a free throw. Hey, everybody lives happily ever after. When it was time to win the game, I knew she would win the game. Why? Because we just knew that from watching her do it all the time. We have to know all this stuff. How do we know? We don't just pick somebody out of a hat. We watch everybody at practice. We watch during the drills. We watch during the shooting stuff. We watch when you guys are playing or doing stations, whatever, and then we try to make those decisions. This is an equal opportunity team. When you prove you can do something, you'll get an opportunity to do it. Okay? All right, let's go. Together. 1, 2, 3. Together.
Geno, we know you enjoy reading up on history.
Yes.
And the UConn program has its own history, you could say. Do you ever use your past here at Connecticut as a teaching tool for your current players?
All the time. All the time. To me, that's one of the best teachers there is. In both scenarios. Like, you bring up instances where things didn't work and you say, hey, look, we need to study that, understand that, why, and let's make sure we take steps so it doesn't happen again. You know, what we against Mississippi State is we never got the shot we wanted because we panicked. So, and not her fault, but when we told Sanaya, we're going to run pinch post, just catch it, flip it, cut off, we'll probably fake it to you, and then we'll play 2 on. And she went, catch, look, 100 miles an hour. You just can't panic. Don't get rushed. When things get like this and the game's on the line and it's crazy, you have to slow everything down. And you have to bring up, this is what happens positively when you do this. Because I remember this particular year, this is how we handled it, and this is what happened. So you use the history of your program for a lot of teaching things. You use the former players, and you remind your players that, hey, you're not the first person to go through this. You're not the first person to go in a shooting slump. So, it's not the end of the world. So you bring up team history, you bring up individuals and their history, and you try to give the players as much visual stuff as you can. There's a saying that I'm sure people probably have heard. They said, the really good teams are coached by their coaches, and the really great teams are coached by the players. So if you're a coach team, you can be really, really good. But when you're a player-coach team, that's when you can be great.
How you doing?
Geno Auriemma.
Durante Polite.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, thanks for coming up.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Coach Pat Marco, San Diego.
How are you?
Great.
San Diego. What are you doing all the way out here?
Well, I saw you in Chicago, a couple of times. I just wanted to see this in person.
Good.
Well, a lot of coaches watch this show and come to practice to try and absorb some of the things that you and your coaching staff do. What has been the biggest takeaway, you think, for those coaches when they talk to you after?
Well, it usually has to do with the communication that goes on in practice most of the time, the pace that we practice at, the sustained intensity level that that they see most of the time. And players are held accountable. I mean, those are things that are repeated to us all the time. You know, and the biggest one is players are held accountable. Doesn't matter whether it's your best player or your walk-on. Everybody's held accountable. You're 6'3". You're 6'3". You should be on the rim on every layup. Z never rolls to the basket. Z never goes to the basket. Got to run, Megan. That's jogging.
Crystal, let it go. Let's go.
We're just lazy, man. That's just lazy. Creating an unselfish environment, meaning everyone has to give up a little bit of themselves for the team, and yet at the same time find a way to be a star. I tried to describe it to them like a jazz band, and there's 4 people in the band, and everybody's playing, and it just sounds like everybody's connected to each other.
Walker, beautiful return from Samuelson to the freshman.
And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you know, maybe the bass player will do it like a little riff, you know, and that's his thing or her thing. And then they'll seamlessly come back, and it just blends.
Gabby Williams jumps in and gets the steal. The advance to Samuelson. The bounce to Nurse. For 2.
And then a little bit later, maybe the guy with the horn, he does his little thing or her thing. And then they come back.
Numbers for the Huskies. The feed from Dangerfield. The finish by Samuelson.
So within that, like, beautiful music, people get to stand out, and then they come back. I think basketball is a lot like that. 5 players on the floor trying to play as one, and within that, people being able to be stars and always coming back to the team.